Okay, well, first of all, I want to tell you that it's a privilege to have John Martin. And John takes a lot of grief sometimes because we're in this transition now. We were riding down here today, and I said, you know, John, this idea that we're going to take people out of big facilities and move them into little ones, you know, this reminds me of the mental health experiment where we're going to take everybody out of the big institutions and then everything's going to be great. And, of course, then nobody cared about what was happening at the local level. And John said, well, it's not quite working that way. We are making sure that the resources that go from the big institution follow the person to the smaller institution. And you know, this is really critical, and I have to tell you, you wouldn't believe how much heat John has taken over this. And in fact, it's actually caused some in the legislature to overreact. And at one point, they wanted to take control of the process. Well, I'm not turning the process over to a committee, folks. I'm just telling you. The idea is to, Margaret, the idea is to move people from a bigger facility where we are behind the curve right now into a place like this, where people can have better care. We do understand the anxiety. I don't understand the anxiety. I can only try to understand the anxiety that parents have when change is coming that affects their children. Whether they're children or adult children, it doesn't matter. But we're working our way through this because we want to make sure that Ohio is not way behind the curve. And John Martin, I mean, he is the best. In fact, the biggest increase that we had in our budget, the last budget we had, was going to John Martin, because that's how we feel about it. Now, a couple other things that I'd like to tell you. First of all, if you don't have economic growth, you got nothing. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If we were not back on our feet and growing, where do you think the money would come from to do these things we're doing? So we all have to think about the fact that we need growth. Because without growth, and even with growth, I'm constantly frustrated by the fact that we need more dollars, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get more out of the dollars we have, and to perhaps develop a system that would reward those people in the social service arena, that if they save money, if they figure out a more efficient way to do things, I'd like them to put, you know, a chunk of it in their own pockets, and I'd like the rest of it to be kept in social services, because it's the services that you hear here today, but it's also things that affect foster care. I mean, these are all things that, frankly, it's real easy to run over in politics, because these folks, they don't have a big voice. And you have a voice, but you know, oftentimes it's like, yeah, thanks for coming in to see me, we're moving on. And we'll talk about that in a second. Now, for those that have never been in a facility like this, including some of my staff, you see these people who are in these chairs, some of them with tangled limbs, and we look at them. We may find out, and would not be any surprise to me whatsoever, that when we leave this earth and we get life after death, they're probably going to be the most honored. You know, and life is so short. So, you know, many of us who have all of our faculties and facilities and can do all these things, first of all, thank the Lord that you can do it. But secondly, life is so short that I'm, in my own mind, frankly, to some degree because of the innocence of people who find themselves with severe disabilities, they greatly honor the Lord. And in my opinion, will be greatly honored. So when we think about them as very special people. And we see them one way, but I'm absolutely convinced the Lord sees them a whole nother way. Now, for the families that are here, what can we say? Now, that was a beautiful testimony, but I look at Tommy and I think about the family, and it's really interesting. I don't really like to talk much about sports. I do talk about sports figures, but I hate to use them as an example, other than the fact this young golfer by the name of Jordan Spieth, he's, 22, 23 years old. He seems to be an outstanding young man. He's had a lot of success. He's made a lot of money. But when you observe him, he seems to be a remarkable young man. He gives the credit to his developmentally disabled sister, who has provided with him the inspiration and provided him with the values that have made this young man special. So when I look at the family here, the Musavians, and I look at the son just graduated from Georgetown, wow, that's pretty good. And I look at the daughter, and I look at the mom and the dad, and I look over here at Tommy. It makes me wonder how much good Tommy has brought at a time when it has to be, at times, unbelievably difficult. Something that we who don't deal with this can't imagine. And it's got to be tough. God bless the families, because it can't be easy. The staff, are you kidding me? Come to work and they deal with really difficult situations. People say, this is not supposed to be a sermon, but I don't see it any other way. I see the people that come to work to provide loving care to the people who are in this facility as heroes. And, I was just reading, I think it was Timothy 2, that those who endure will be those who will reign. It's a really interesting thing to think about. Those who endure will be those who reign. You're shaking your head. You go to church on Sunday? Did your preacher tell you that one? No, but okay. How am I doing? Okay? But if you think about it for a second, if the promises are true, and we're at St. Joseph, so I can do what I want here, okay? If the promises are true, the rewards are coming. And the rewards are coming at the speed of light. Do you remember when you were young? Do you remember when you didn't have a stiffness when you got out of the car? Do you remember when your health was perfect? Time flies. And the older we get, the faster it goes. So let's make our mark, following the path of justice and kindness. For me, I'm never going to get there, but I'm going to try, do better. The boards. Now, these boards are interesting things. We got all kinds of boards. We got more boards than, Carter has pills. But Martin tells me these boards are good. Now, I would make a suggestion to you, and I mentioned it to John yesterday. I think the boards, because you put these levies on, okay, do they all pass? Almost all of them pass, okay? There's something about them passing. There's something deep inside people that while they may vote down, this levy or that levy, they seem not to vote these levies down. I will be willing to pay for the printing, or the state will, and the postage. And I think you need to contact your voters. And you need to tell them that all these years you have passed these levies. And I want to tell you what it's given us. Because you want to continue to build that support in the community to take care of people. Because we always ask for money, but we never tell them what we got done. So I would say statewide we ought to start telling people what they're getting for their money. Also to the boards, we can't have turf battles. Now, Martin tells me we don't have them here. But just on the way down here and dealing with the issue of poverty, we got people, their egos get in the way. And we all have egos, and we're all knuckleheads, some less than others, probably the nuns here. I haven't seen any nuns today. Are there any nuns here? Where are these nuns? Okay. There they go. Are you the only nun here? Oh, there's several nuns. Good. You know, I assume that these nuns, you know, Teresa of Avila or whatever, they work to try to limit the fighting, I guess, the ego and all that. I mean, it just gets us in trouble when people are fighting and we got a common purpose, and then the turf gets in the way and goofy things happen. We have to deal with it. I'm not hearing that we got a problem here with the boards. That you're doing a great job, and I hope you will continue to do that job. But then whenever there is a dispute, which inevitably there will be, we got to figure out what's best for the people in the chairs. Okay, not what's best for us and for our, okay. Now autism. We have an uncompleted job in autism right now. You know, I remember the day I called Joan of Arc of autism, a lady whose husband ran White Castle. She's a remarkable lady. I called her on Christmas because I was able to, by the stroke of a pen, to cover a big chunk of people that had never had insurance. But we have another group that is still out there. Now, my understanding is the House is going to pass this bill to cover the rest of the people and offer them the insurance that they have in like 40 other states. And then we got to get it over to the Senate, and we got to get this done. Because it is a marginal cost to get this done, and ask her about if you don't get the services you need. So we have to be able to get that done. Now let me also tell you here in sort of conclusion, this is a privilege for me to be here today. We really, really want you to know, I want you to know personally, that as best as I can communicate through my efforts and the efforts of John Martin, we don't want you to be alone. We don't want you to think that it's you against the world and no one cares. Now, we've got about 2.5 years left in this term, and we don't know what will come next. Okay, I can't predict what will come. So there are some things that we need to be in a hurry to get done. And you know, there are always limits to resources in everything you do, but if we can figure out a way to be able to stretch our resources, be more creative, bring technology, I don't care what it is, we want to make sure that we leave finishing the race strong. We don't want to run through the tape and be, you know, kind of falling down. We want to run through it strong.